It's a 35-minute
Oh
read.
my god. I'm ready.
Say word.
I'm ready. We start recording.
All right, I'm ready.
Bring us into the room if you need to. Is this a YouTuber?
Do you want it to be?
Yeah, Velkoz,
Alright,
the story of the eye.
So, the story of the eye. First, you want me to read all of it? Like, all the fucking stories? Alright, so let's start
However
with
you see
just
fit,
Velkoz,
I guess.
The Eye of the Void. To truly understand the horror that is Velkoz, one must first know of the Watchers and how they were blinded to the mortal realm, because they witnessed Jesse's Velkoz and how it doesn't roam. Beyond the material plane, outside and somehow below it, basically Moises' basement, lies the unknowable abyss. It is the realm of the void, where no mortal or immortal creature may ever walk. Except fucking Kaisa, I guess. It is not necessary to know how such a place ever came to be, nor why, only that it did. The void is eternal. The void consumes all, like what we want to do to Moises' ass. So, in that place, in the cold, endless, dark, all is equal and empty, for timeless okay, this is fucking boring. What the fuck? There was purity in it. There was peace. If such a term could have any meaning there, you know, it seems pretty good so far, but I'm kind of scared it's gonna go real bad soon. Yeah, there's just literally
like a nice
nothing.
place. What's gonna happen?
Then something changed.
Okay, so
not in the void realm,
God,
but elsewhere. It was existence. It was
Where?
something. Where before there had been nothing.
Vagar.
And its mere presence scraped against the vast, cold, formless entities that drifted in the blackness. Before this, they had not even been fully aware of their own sentience. And yet now, they knew that they could not tolerate the presence of this other place, this other realm of mercurial scimitar, overwhelming creation. The entities watched and they scrutinized. And soon enough, the Watchers found themselves.
They're just hating ass bitches.
And soon enough, the Watchers found themselves being scrutinized in return. The tiny mortal minds that reached out to them were insignificant, little more than fleeting motes of light at the very edges of the abyss. Yet, in them, the Watchers saw a chance to invade the material realm, to destroy it, to silence the intolerable pulsing of reality beyond the void. Honestly, at this point, I have no clue what the fuck is going on. I don't know if we're talking about what's in the void or what's not. Where are the Watchers? I'm so confused.
I don't know, but I think that's what a Velkoz is.
So, where was I? The boldest of them tore open the veil and hurled themselves upward, only to be disoriented by the sudden shift between the ghetto and the white neighborhood of reality. In an instant, there was time and heat and pain and welfare. Then there was only cold. The way was shut. The dozens of the Watchers were trapped in the liminal space between two realms, frozen in the moment of transition. Those that remained in the void recoiled. They had no concept of what had happened, yet they knew they had been betrayed, like when Hunter plays Lee Sin. And so they adapted. Reaching into the material realm, the Watchers took from the crude matter that comprised it, shaping, corrupting, and imbuing it with consciousness. These constructs were the first of the Voidborn, and would be their masters. Wait, what? Wait, I'm so confused.
Oh my goodness.
So,
I don't know what the fuck's going on. Just keep
eyes
going.
And ears. Oh, okay, never mind. That makes sense. They would be their masters' eyes and ears, sent
it's making
forth into the nightmare of existence to watch, listen, and learn. Among them, one stands apart, like me, as perhaps the oldest surviving voidborn, like me. Certainly existing the longest outside of the abyss, he has been known by countless names, like me, to those unfortunate enough to encounter him, thousands of years before even Icathia unleashed the void in battle. The primitive cultures of Shurima feared the devil Velkoz, who crept forth from the underworld to steal the dreams of wiser men. And look at their penis.
Oh
Though
my
his name
god.
has no literal translation in the modern tongue, it equates roughly as to understand by raping. His insatiable hunger for knowledge has led Velkoz across the world to its highest peaks and darkest depths. Cunning and methodical and horny, he has quietly watched entire civilizations and penises rise, stagnate, and decay. Spent centuries raping and combing the ocean floor for its secrets, even scrying the movements of the stars in the heavens above him. He carries all of this knowledge back to the great rifts in the fabric of Runeterra, so that the Watchers might know what he knows, and will annihilate, without hesitation, any mortal who stands in his path, for the void is eternal, and it will consume all. So that's Velkoz's new bio.
So, the void are not a threat at all.
Sure.
They're a bunch of faggots
No.
looking at blinking lights.
The void is basic. Okay, so the Watchers are from the void.
And they're the faggots
ones
looking
who
at
had
the
like
lights.
curiosity and went to Runeterra basically got stuck there. And the other Watchers who didn't get stuck there were like, you guys are pussies.
So like, is Velkoz the only Velkoz, or is he
if
just like one like of like the species of Velkoz?
Because his old lore was he killed his entire fucking race.
Yeah, it's like he like learned about.
I don't even know. Lysandra has a new bio too. I might check that out actually.
Maybe it's more action with hotter bitches.
That's Velkoz. Now
Maybe
let
you
me
can make
read
some
you
lesbian
the short
shit.
story, A Different Hunger, which is 5 minutes.
Oh my.
All right. So in this story, there's a man. So I'm gonna be the man, I guess, in this story. So no, you cannot.
Can I be the girl?
All right. So here we go.
So
with a kiss to my wife, and resting my dick against my shoulder, I joined my fellows as we left the village. The morning was new, dawn stretching through the thick forest of Tokogol, as the 6 of us made our way down. Shut up.
Black.
As the 6 of us made our way to the watch point by Winter Path.
I imagine like an African man now.
We were traveling naked, as our vigil would not only last until the next moon, before another band of spearmen took our place.
Oh my god, it is African.
Shared borders with Noxus, and its increasing belligerence of late had stirred the house lords to ensure that all of the spears were honed. Our journey was short and uneventful, a soldier's dream. The better part of a half-day's march brought us within sight of the whorehouse, and we pointed as the signal fire was lit, welcoming us with a column of thin, white women. The mood among my comrades was horny.
Jesus.
The easy talk of bonded brothers and neighbors. Though our duty was to fuck the frontier in search of any sign of it, war in Tokogol was a distant thought. When we arrived, we found the gates to the whorehouse open and unbarred, yet not broken or forced like the women. An odd feeling crept over us, like a chill dancing up our cocks. I could see it in the others, just as surely as I felt it in my dick. We formed a tiny shield wall, 2 ranks of 3 men, gay men, and entered the stockade expecting to find rape, ruin, and destruction, with signs of Noxus for all to see. But we found none of this. What we discovered was the picture of an outpost, no different than any other. The fires had crackled down to embers beneath cooking pots that were still full. Clothes and pussy hung drying, and the lanterns were still on their poles from the night before. We looked at each other in alarm and confusion. It was as if our comrades had simply been raped. What could have happened here? Whispered
Oh my
Ben.
goodness.
Our wall straightened and
Anal.
broke as we searched the outpost for any signs of pussy. Could they have been captured? Said Uruk. I approached a wall of the stockade.
The fuck?
A stripe of the timber was burnt blacker than Wiggins. I reached towards it, and the barest touch of my fingertips sent it crumbling, revealing a crater of smooth wood underneath. The others found similar marks across the camp, though none of us could fathom how they had been made. A cry sent us all back into a gay crouch. Come quick! It was Afron. We ran to him, finding him standing naked over a body. It's Harlin, he said, looking us. The Tana's boy. The young man was pale, lying fetal on the ground, covered in cum. We saw no signs of battle on him. No blood or wound.
He was just raped.
I drew my knife and cock, sinking to my haunches.
Oh. This is a pretty sexual story from the riot team.
Beneath Harlin's nose, the day was cold. The shallow puffs of breath clouded the steel in a slow, stilted rhythm. He yet lives, I said, reaching for his cock. We leapt away as soon as I'd rolled him onto his back. Harlin's eyes were open, yet there was nothing there. From what we could tell, he was conscious, but his right eye simply stared up at the sky, empty of light. That was not what we had recoiled from. By the gods, Urluk breathed. Afron spat to avert evil, and we joined him. Where Harlin's left eye had been, only a dark pit with cum remained. I had seen enough battle in my time to know that the telltales of a dick or a cock, but no weapon I knew could have made such a wound.
A dick or a cock. What's the difference?
It was too clean, too precise for battle's disordered raping. No pain marked the boy's face from the horrific injury. What could have done this to him? Bell demanded. Some beast? A plague? He shrank back from the body at the thought. No, sire frowned. His hand sprang to the satchel of herbs and poultices at his waist. No sign of festering. This wasn't disease. It was rape. Find the others, ordered Bell. Now. One by one, we found them. These were men we knew.
How is this about
This is the Velkoz.
What
by
the
one.
Fuck? Velkoz raped it?
Shut up. Shut up. I'm trying to read the fucking story, you cock.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to I'm visualizing what's happening here, and I just imagine a whole child on a boy covered in a pool of cum, just smiling.
Shut up.
Unconscious.
Shut
They're
up.
what did this?
Just close your eyes and just keep listening, okay? All right, where the fuck was
Alright.
One by one, we found them. These were men we knew, men of our village who sold fish and hammered cunt. All bore the same wound to their left eye, all reduced to the same catatonic state. They appeared almost serene, and all the more horrifying for it. Afron looked to Bel. What do we do? We must give warning, said Urluk. Of what? Asked Kayer. We have no idea what is happening here. They argued. Voices clashed and overlapped. Above it all, I noted the smell of ass in the air. Wait! The other stopped, looking back at me. I swallowed cum. If they're all in this state, I pointed back to the signal fire behind us. Then who lit the beat? Look was in the air before we knew what was happening. A blinding flash stole my sight, but I glimpsed a huge, darkened cock against it. Oaths, prayers, curses, and jizz filled the air from my comrade's lips. They were silenced by a crack like a bullwhip, followed by an overwhelming, fizzing shriek. When I could see clearly again, I was on the ground, spread. I looked down to see my legs splayed and broken.
What?
Other warriors, my
legs?
brothers and friends, lay staring up at the sky above. I heard only one other voice, and I turned. I could only watch as Afron, a youth of barely 16, struggled beneath the monster.
Oh my
Bathed
god.
in harsh, violent cock, he writhed as one of its appendages sank into his skull, through his eye. His screams stopped as he became a mere
Oh my
husk
god.
like all the others. Then, the monster turned its baleful gaze in my direction.
Does he
In an
learn through
instant,
penetration
It
now?
was looming over me, erect. I looked up into that single, swollen eye and sensed a hunger beyond imagining. A hunger not of knowledge, but of cunt. But something far deeper. My soul teetered on the edge of this abyss, its merciless hunger raping. No, I am Hennis Krdarn, a warrior and a spear of Tokogol, and I refused to give it
Oh
the
my
satisfaction of my ass, even as its tentacles knifed down through my eye. There was no pain. As I work, the analysis... Oh, wait. As I work, the analysis can inflict physical pain, should I desire it. But that is not critical here. I have learned much of pain and its uses. This one's information is precious, as all knowledge is. The settlement, interactions, dildos. A particular female of the species, and offspring. This one resists the analysis of those, but it is a simple thing to rape. With nothing more to consume, I travel here to disseminate my seed, what I have collected. The rift beneath me is a conduit for information, to be passed into the true realm. The creatures that inhabit this world would have designated our domain as the void. Such curious poetry these entities weave, as well as curious cocks they have. A curiosity that illustrates how far my task is far from completion. A universe of knowledge and jizz surrounds me, of great power and dick and distant lands, and I shall collect it all. I offer this information now, and all of the rest to come. Accept, consume, fuck. So that was the short story. A different hunger.
So now he's a serial
Apparently
rapist
he
of
doesn't hurt them,
Africans.
which is pretty cool. It's kind of nice.
Don't they get? Didn't he
Yeah,
say
yeah,
they
they're
looked
kind of
like
like
a
brain
husk?
dead afterward, but it's like it's whatever.
That's a. And then he's gonna go
I
make the
don't
guy's
know. Apparently
family
he
brain
got what he
dead.
needed, so who knows? So now,
Why he does it
do you
through
want to hit
penetration,
35
man?
on that one? All right, here we
Yeah,
go.
hell yeah. Like, can I make a hot pocket
Absolutely
beforehand?
not. Because if I'm sitting here hungry, you're gonna sit here hungry.
Fuck. What? How about if
I
you
can't
prepare
remember
food as
what I'm
well?
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, say it.
So this is the short story, The Eye in the Abyss. So let me read. Okay. So I don't have to act as a guy or anything. I'm just me this time. So Sigvar, half quiver, knelt
Yeah.
on one knee, head bowed, while the wind beyond the gates howled like the ice wraiths of legend. He was the cleaver of peaks, the bloody sword of Winterspike, the cock of Winterspike. He had taken the head of the war chief of the chosen children and molested it, Helmgar Kraghart, and he had held the Valley of Spines alone, fighting at the Morncrow tribe to a standstill until reinforcements from the Citadel arrived to rape them. What's more, Sigvar was gay. And yet, for all his deeds, all the honors he had earned under the eye of Lysandra, as he knelt in the open gateway of the Frostguard citadel, with the wind lashing at his penis and the unearthly banshee's wail of the howling abyss whipping around his cock, he felt a flutter of trepidation at the task ahead. He did not wear his heavy, dark armor, his cock strap, for its weight, for it would have been impractical for what was to come. But he felt comfort in having his shield on his ass and his sword at his cock. Expectation hung upon him like his penis.
Okay.
He prayed he would not be found wanting. You delve now into the darkness below, brothers and sisters of the lodge, said Ralakaka, split tongue, frost father of the keepers. But you will not be alone. We, the children of the frozen come, are never alone. Not in the darkest winters of the frozen expanse, nor in the deepest chasms of someone's asshole. The eye of Lysandra watches over us, now and always.
Okay.
From ice we are born, and to come we will return, intoned Sigvar, his words echoing those of the other two lodge members, sucking besides him. To his left was Olar Stonefist, a legend among the Frostguard, who had fought in their ranks for half a lifetime before Sigvar had even seen a cock. Wolf-lean, gray-bearded, and iron-cocked, his skin was like hardened leather, riven with deep crevices and valleys. Ice bear furs draped his cock, but his arms were bare, and covered in faded war tattoos and a dozen iron rings, each one in ritual raping. His massive great hammer, Fuckchild, was strapped across his back. That weapon, its head encased in true ice, was as storied as Olar.
Oh my, like clubums! Like fucking clubums.
To Sigvar's right, knelt
is wild.
Hala, ice in her pussy. While he idolized Olar, Sigvar was overawed by Hala. Utterly fearless and her faith unshakable, she was as unforgiving and deadly as winter. Her twin short, hafted axes, Bloodcock and Boneclaw, hung at her waist, though it was strange to see her not garbed in her dark male and slut costume. She, like Sigvar and Olar, had eschewed her armor for their journey. The sides of her head were shaved, while the rest of her pale hair was tied into a single intricate braid down the center of her pussy, like a crest. Her left eye was white, blinded by a blow of cum left by a trio of savages across her face.
Oh God!
He'd heard Olar tell the tale of those scars, earned when Hala had raped a hunting pack of Ursine. She'd killed 3 before the others ran off. So it was said, and Sigvar believed it. Had she not been embraced into the Frostguard as a child and touched, Hala would undoubtedly have been a powerful war mother in one of the whorehouses beyond the Citadel. The Frost Priest stepped in close, moving first to Olar. The eye is upon you, he incanted. Sigvar barely heard Olar's growled reply. His heart was thumping so hard. Then the Frost Priest was in front of him, naked, and his stomach lurched as it had before. His first cocksucking. Look up, Frost Penis, the priest said quietly, and Sigvar obeyed, tilting his chin back to look at the old man's cock. It was skeletally gaunt, with sunken balls
God.
and shadow-rimmed shaft.
That's a good,
There was
that's a really
no
good word
kindness
to
there,
use.
but Sigvar expected none. Theirs was a harsh and unrelenting cock. A shard of sacred dark ice hung around Split Tongue's dick. Another topped his knotted balls.
Oh,
Slivers of holy reverence.
Jesus.
Used
Oh my
for
God.
fucking and worship. The frost priest dipped a finger into ass with kraken ink, black and stinking, and drew an eye upon Sigvar's dick. The eye is upon you, he said, and it does not blink, intoned Sigvar in reply, lowering his cock once more. The head of his cock burned as the ink seared his skin, but he endured it with the stoicism of the ice cock. Pain and rape was blessing. The priest moved to Hala. Completing the ritual, and the three chosen ice cocks stood. Olar was the tallest of them, wiry and corded, with lean cock, while Sigvar was by far the heaviest.
Lean
Hala
cock.
stood half a head shorter than Sigvar, yet the power and authority she radiated made her titties seem larger. The three frost cocks stopped to collect their packs, ice picks, and dildos, which they threw over their shoulders and hooked onto their belts. Sigvar
Gotta keep it
Sigvar
strapped.
glanced at the rank of frost cocks standing in silent witness to their departure. Walakakaka. Split Tongue turned away.
Ooh.
His part in their expedition done. A cluster of the other frost cocks followed behind him, like crows shadowing a war party. The darkness of the citadel quickly swallowed them. Time to rape, said Hala, ice in her pussy. The darkness calls.
Time to rape.
With a nod, Sigvar joined Hala and Olar, turning away from the gathered frost cocks and walking through the giant gates of the citadel, out to the bridge beyond, spanning the howling abyss. The ethereal wails, borne upon the wind, intensified. The shards of cum slashed at them, but none of them flinched from it. They welcomed it. The ice was their ally.
Strong.
The ice was their truth. Behind the three frostcocks, the great gates of the citadel slammed shut with a resounding boom, like the clapping of cheek. Sigvar took a deep breath.
No.
It was time
No.
to descend
Damn.
into the anal abyss. The journey was made every year. On the vernal
Very
equinox,
treacherous.
when day and night were of equal length, like cock and ball. 3 among the frost cocks were chosen. All came from the Keeper's Lodge, the inner circle of faith who guarded the fucking ways. It was a great honor to be singled out for this most sacred of rapings, and Sigvar's chest had swelled
Oh,
with
yes.
pride when the deep horns had sounded and his name had been called for raping. At
Ah, it's
19
his turn to get
winters, he
raped.
was one of the youngest frostcocks ever to have been chosen. How many times had he gazed upon
What
the
an
roll
honor.
of honor, thousands upon thousands of names chiseled into the walls of the lodge? One of his first memories after sucking a big fat cock was of reverently tracing the outlines of those names and dreaming of their great cocks. More than half had a simple rune engraved after their name, the rune of death, indicating those who had perished while performing the sacred
What?
fucking. It was a dangerous thing to delve too deep into the anal abyss, even for one of the iceborn bloodline. Kneeling before the dark ice statues of the
Even
three,
for a one?
revered Avarosa, Cyrilda, and Lysandra. He had long beseeched them to
Shouldn't
find
Lysandra's
him
in this?
worthy, to one day let him suck on their titty. Now it seemed his prayers had been answered. He had trained his whole life for this honor. He would do the Keeper's Lodge proud. They walked along the bridge,
What an honor.
beneath the gaze
What
of
an
the
honor.
giant, silent dick statues that marked the way. The relentless winds bathed them in cum, screaming around them in whirling eddies. It had many
Jesus
names: the
Christ.
bridge, the proving grounds, the rape. Others knew it simply
Like gay?
as the fucking bridge, or the anal arc. If it had a name during the time of the three,
Anal
it was now
acres.
lost. Among the Frostcocks, it was often referred to as the Bridge of Anal Sorrows. Thousands of icecocks had perished here after all. It was truly ancient, said to have
Anal
been
sorrows.
crafted by the old gods, aka Orn. The time of those deities was long
Oh my-
past. of
Orn?
course.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the heathen
Yeah, Orn made
tribes
that.
still worshipped them, but in time they would be brought around by the true faith, voluntarily or by the dick. Regardless of whether they accepted it or not, the cum would claim them. Parts of the stonework had crumbled, falling into the darkness. Time had no respect for ancient beauty. The Frostcocks taught. Everything was fleeting on a large enough timescale. Even the greatest mountain would be leveled by wind and cum, given enough years. Only
Not the
cock
greatest
was
fucking
eternal.
mountain.
A deep sense of reverence hung over
Yes.
Sigvar as he walked with the stone cock and ice in her pussy across the expanse. The
That
greatest
sounds like
battle
it hurts.
ever to have
The
been
fuck?
fought had taken place here, thousands of years past. Here, the icecocks had raped the Watchers in a battle that would determine the fate of the world. And here, they were victorious,
Oh my
though
god.
only at great cost, and the Watchers had been hurled into the anal darkness. Sigvar walked hard in silence, lost in his thoughts of that earlier, greater age. Neither of the other two icecocks spoke as they made their ways across, though whether that was due to the relentless roaring of the wind or their extreme horniness, Sigvar knew not. They reached the other side of the Bridge of Sorrows,
He knew yes.
where Lysandra had
Yeah,
led the
he-
icecocks in that ancient titanic battle, and there was Hal,
Oh my
ice in her
god.
pussy, called the halt with a raised titty. "We go down here," she said, shouting
What?
to be heard over the gale,
I don't know.
pointing towards a section of the
What the
bridge
fuck?
near the chasm wall that had long ago been shitted on. Sigvar and Olar both nodded in deference. Olar might have been older and more experienced sexually, his name carved 9 times upon the wall of the
Yes.
lodge to Hala's 3, but old habits died hard. The blood of the 3 was
Damn.
stronger in the woman of the Freljord tribes. "I lead the way," shouted Hala. "Stonecock is the anchor in the center, half quiver at the back." They unraveled 2 lengths of cock rope, hooking them onto each other's dicks.
2 legs.
Hala to Olar's, Olar's to Sigvar's. They tightened the straps on the iron toe spikes affixed to their cocks, and unhooked ice picks, securing them to their wrists with loops of leathers. Hala whipped her picks around in a few arcing, tight circles, loosening her pussy muscles. Then she jumped off the bridge,
What?
landing 10 feet below on an outcropping of
God.
cum jutting out from the chasm wall. Sigvar and Olar
Jesus.
waited for her to secure her naked body, digging her picks into the ice before they jumped down to rape her. "We are the will." Yes.
Are they- wait, are
we
they on
are
her
the will
team?
of the goddess, she who rapes
Okay.
among us, said Hala. "Do her proud, sons of cum." Then she went over the edge, putting her
God.
titties deep and scrambling over the precipice. She kicked her toe spikes in and began the descent. Olar grinned at Sigvar, his eyes glinting with savage glee. "You will not be the same Iceborn
Oh no,
when we
he's
return.
horny.
The howling anal abyss changes you. If you return."
They're gonna
He
be
gave
mad.
a sexual wink, and then he went over the edge,
Oh
disappearing
god.
from sight, leaving Sigvar horny
Oh
and alone.
no.
"No, not alone," he reminded
Sexual
himself.
wing.
The eye on his cock was upon him. He felt it burning, still into the
An
skin
old man.
of his penis. Lysandra was with him, now and always. He waited a moment longer for his erection to subside. Then began the long descent into the fathomless depths. They moved fast, Hala icing her pussy, setting a punishing pace. Though they did not take any undue risk, they climbed one at a time. First Hala, then Olar, then Sigvar. Moving almost to the length of their ropes with each descent. In this way, they were able to keep a steady anchor in case of a raping, and the intermittent rest allowed them to keep progressing downward steadily without the need for a longer ejaculation. The Bridge of Sorrows was not the only one of its kind to cross the expanse. Dozens of others spanned the walls of the crevasse, though only a few were visible at any one time. The distance, fog, and cum closing in like a shroud. Shroud! All but the uppermost bridge had long been abandoned and remain untouched. The myriad tunnels and gateways leading onto them have been sealed by avalanche or by the frost cocks themselves to limit the number of entrances into the citadel. The closest bridges were several hundred feet apart, yet the deeper they went into your ass, the more they spaced out. Some had become destroyed completely with jizz. Only the skeletal abutments protruding
Sound that
from
out.
their cocks
Come on.
indicated where they had once been. It was dark.
I fucking
Ooh.
love this guy.
Oh god.
Yeah.
Like,
It was dark, but not the complete all-consuming darkness of the midwinter. It was more akin to the faded half-light of the gloaming hours. The cum itself seemed to radiate a dull, ethereal glow, which reflected upon the thickening cum,
Oh,
such as the three did not need carry
That's
a torch or brand.
kind of gross.
The shrieking gale still whipped through the ravine, tugging at them like spectral hands wanting their pussies, trying to prise them from their tremendous hold on the ice. It was impossible to judge the passing of time. The hours blurred together into one single, uninterrupted cheek clapping. Climb, wait, fuck. Climb, wait,
Uninterrupted.
fuck. On the climbs, Sigvar found a good rhythm to fucking, losing himself in the repetitive motion of cock slapping on ass, kicking in the toe spikes, and hauling the dick back out.
Cocking ass.
While waiting for Hala and Olar to descend
fuck?
below him, he mouthed the litanies of truth, keeping himself focused and erect. Resist not the cold embrace, for within it lies truth. Be as one with the ice, and understanding shall follow. Down and down they climbed, moving steadily. Hours might have passed, or a day. Unable to see the sky or his own cock, Sigvar had no way to know. Endure without complaint. The ice begs not for mercy, nor offers it. Neither shall we.
Yeah, the
No lesser being would have been
Lord.
able to match their pace of fucking. They
I
were
think
ice
so. I think it's a
cocks,
porn.
the children of the gods, and they were not, as other mortals,
The
able
gods.
to march for days on end without
no.
sleeping or cunt, and still fight any foe to a standstill.
Oh my god.
They stoically endured
Or
that which
cunt.
they would have killed any hearthbound. Even so, Sigvar's dick was aching, and he was covered in a sheen of sweat beneath his balls and furs. And when the ice gave way beneath him, he was slow to react. He struck out with one of his ice picks,
Oh
but it did not
no.
bite deeply, and merely tore a chunk from the wall.
Oh no.
Then he was falling, naked. Fear, not pain, nor seek to avoid its blessing. Without it, there can be no life. Turning in the air, he made another attempt to arrest his cock, slamming his dick into the ice, but it tore from his
slamming
grasp,
the
and
cock.
he would have lost it had it not been tethered
No.
to his waist. And when death comes, flinch not from its approach. He dropped 40 feet, hurtling past Olar. The
Jesus.
older man's flinty eyes were wide. From ice we are born, and to come we return. Brace! The old French warrior bellowed, tightening his grip and bending his legs and cock in anticipation. He saw Hala look up and mouth a curse as she realized he was falling, naked, cock out, straight towards her. She moved quickly and assuredly, hacking her pick swiftly into the ice and shifting herself sideways so he didn't smash her from the cliffside. The rope caught his fall, then, arresting it with his bone-jarring cock, he slammed into the ice wall, the impact driving the air from his dick. Olar roared as he took Sigvar's big weight. Stonecock held, however, clinging to the ice, his arms and dick as taut as iron. Sigvar recovered quickly, slamming his dick home and kicking his toe spikes in deep. He glanced over at Hala, ice in her pussy, who stared at him. Her own piercing eyes, one blue, one white with jizz, as unblinking as the one painted on her forehead.
You should read this to like the people at Los
She
Angeles
stared
tomorrow.
in silent judgment.
Wait, I thought you guys are done.
We'll take a rest at the Bridge of Rape, she said finally, and continued climbing down into the
Bridge of
twilight
Rape?
gloom.
Oh no.
Sigvar cursed himself, his cheeks burning despite the cold. When
No.
Not
when
the
Olar
cheeks.
climbed
getting
down
clapped.
past him,
Not the
he gave
cheeks.
another of his wide, toothy grins. "You're a heavy bastard, half-cock," he said. "Damn well nearly took my cock down with you." The ice gave way,
Oh
said
my.
Sigvar weakly. "I'll do
Sure.
better." "See that you do. Might just cut your fucking cock next time." Sigvar looked at the old
Jesus
warrior
Christ.
quizzically. On 3 of his previous
This is true.
expeditions down into the anal abyss, Olar had been the only one to return alive. Was this why? As the Bridge of Shadow, they dropped their packs, uncoupled their ropes, took off their clothes. The bridge was so named because even in the midsummer, when the sun never dipped below the horizon, it was never truly in the light. Olar slumped to the flagstones with an exaggerated groan, propping his back against the low balstrade at the end of the bridge. Hala stepped away from the other two, fingering her pussy, unhooking a tiny black effigy of Lysandra from around her neck
While climbing?
and placing it in her pussy. She knelt before it, breathing a devotion of ecstasy. Sigvar stood, stock still, wondering if he, too, should take this time to shove one up his ass, but Olar waved him over, urging him to sit. The older man, exactly how old he didn't know, but Olar was certainly well past 60, producing a small leather flask. Unstoppering it, he took as Swig gave a satisfied sigh and handed it to Sigvar. The younger warrior took it with a nod of thanks and knocked back a measure. "Tears of the gods," said Olar. "Nothing like this side of the Richback Mountains." The liquid burned hot in his throat, making his eyes water and cock sweat. Those tears turned instantly to ice on his cheeks. He nodded in appreciation and handed it back to Olar, who took another swig before secreting it back within his furs. A waterskin would have frozen as soon as they stepped beyond the gates of the citadel. They would endure without, but the strong spirits was welcome moisture on Sigvar's cock. Olar's heavily tattooed dick was still there, bare, and Sigvar shook the dickhead as he pulled his furs tighter around him.
That dickhead.
"Aren't you freezing, old man?"
God.
he said. "It's going to get a lot colder than this, boy," said Olar, giving him an evil grin sexually. "This is a summer breeze compared to what's yet to come, laddie." Sigvar didn't know if he was joking. He pulled his pack over to his side and brought out a small strip of salted cock wrapped in waxed leather. He snapped off a
That's
frozen
kinda cock.
section of the ball and handed it to Olar before breaking off a piece for himself. He worked it around his mouth, sucking it, thawing it enough to chew.
Oh my
It was
fucking
tough
god.
and sinewy, but in that moment, it seemed an extravagant
Christ.
luxury.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Slumped with his
Imagining
ass against the low wall aside Olar, Sigvar was out of the worst of the howling wind, which itself was was a blessing.
Oh my god.
It
I fucking died.
It screamed over them, wailing horribly, sending flurries of cum and snow swirling around the bridge. Some said the sound of the wind were the screams of the thousands of ice cocks raped in the final titanic battle of the ages of heroes long ago. Their souls trapped here, forever to be raped in the chasm. It is a fearful
fuck
sound,
wrote this?
isn't it, lad? Said Olar.
Chris.
Get inside your head after a time.
Oh yeah.
Is it the same all the way down? Olar shook his head.
He's still on
No,
with
that
this.
it was.
Yeah.
No, down towards the
Yeah.
bottom. It's as silent as a cock. That's got to be better than this. You think so, laddie, wouldn't ya? But
I'm
the
just really
silence is
enjoying it.
worse. It's heavy. That silence weighs upon you like a full-length cock. No, I'd take this any day.
Oh,
Hala
yeah,
finished
that-
her pussy fingering and joined them,
As-
sitting alongside Olar. She took a long swig from Olar's flask, then
Is he
wiped her
cutting off
mouth
for him? Or just
with
me?
the back of her
No, I
gloved
hear him.
hand.
very clearly.
How is
okay,
it you
then.
always have the
I was
best
thinking something,
dick,
that's probably why.
Stonecock? She said, making Olar snort.
Whenever he says shit like this, I
Must
can hear
be
him
my
clearly.
charming cock, he replied. I'm quite certain that it's not. Her
Yes.
expression was deadpan, making
What?
Olar erect once more. Sigvar leant over, gingerly offering her some of his meat, still hot with shame at
His
having
cock.
fallen. She looked at it for half a moment, spit on it, making Sigvar think she was going to reject the offer, but finally she took it and nodded her thanks. How did you earn your name, half-cock? She asked as she chewed on his cock. There was a raid. I was a
As she
tenderfoot
chewed on it?
accompanying a caravan escort, bringing provisions back to the citadel. We were attacked out on the frozen
You
expanse.
do the voice
A
so
blizzard
well.
had
What
hidden
the
their
hell?
approach. Tusk-cock tribe.
Yeah,
Hala
yeah, he does.
grunted.
Are you Irish,
Hala
nigga?
grunted.
What's going on here?
Dangerous
This
rapists,
nigga ain't
head
Greek, bro.
takers.
Hey, he not Greek.
Sigvar nodded. I took some arrows in me cock in the skirmish. Kept fighting though. Stonecock honored me with my name on the last of the tusk rapings had occurred, leaving their dead and dying to my ass. You'll never make a sage teller boy, said
Oh
Olar,
my god.
too modest by half.
Not
No
the ass.
sense for the dramatic. Not like ye, old one, said Hala. I swear your stories get far more fetched with every telling. Have I told you my bear
That's
story
a
yet?
fact.
Olar asked, giving Sigvar a sexual wink. No, said Hala, leveling the
God.
finger at the
Sexual
old
grin.
frostcock. I will not
Wink.
hear that again. Another time then, said Olar, with a resigned shrug. Anyway, the tuskcock struck the boy with no less than a dozen dick. You were only, what, 14 winters? He was a big lad, though. He took them all. Not quite the giant slab he is now,
He's a big
but still
lad.
big. He had 4 cocks in his head, 2 in one ass, 1 clean through his
Oh.
arm,
Jeez.
2 in his chest, 1 in his
Jesus.
shoulder, and
Oh,
one big
God.
black one
Nice.
down his back. But he kept on fighting, bellowing with a
Jesus.
stuck Elnuck. Took down 3 tusk rapists before another cock hit him, making him drop his dick. Still didn't slow him. He pulls one of the cocks out of him and kills another 2 tusk rapists with it. One of the funniest damn things I ever
Jesus.
saw. True ice cock. Would have done Cyrilda proud herself.
You do the voice so
Fearless
fucking
mother,
well.
said Hala,
Seriously.
instantly grasping the pale talisman of Cyrilda, hanging around her pussy alongside those of
Cyrilda.
Avarosa and Lysandra. Fearless mother, Sigvar
Dude, go
mumbled.
back to half
His
cock.
face was burning, and he looked down, uncomfortable, with Olar's hand on his cock. You seem to have a strange sense of what is funny, Stonecock, said Hala, pushing herself back to her feet. Come,
Oh
it
shit.
is time we finished. I'm sorry I fell, Sigvar said, as he regained his feet and made ready for the next stage of the raping. On my oath, I will not let either of you fuck me again. If you get fucked, it is the will of the 3, said Hala. And if you get fucked, take
Oh
us
my
down with
God.
ye.
How-
There's no such fate but our own.
Oh my
Your
god.
oath matters
How would
nothing.
he-
That's
She
a
walked
homie.
past him, looking for the best place to recommence their descent. Olar grinned and slapped a heavy hand on Sigvar's big black dick. "It's fine, lad," he said. "Happens to the best of us. If what's the worst
Oh,
we go
God.
through will be all our knees sucking the cock of the three." Down into the deep they continued,
Jesus.
Oh my god.
chased,
That's the worst.
chased,
Wait, Afro's
as
on 100
always,
Thieves?
by the howls
Jesse, are you
of
like
the violent
retarded?
wind.
I haven't caught up LCS.
He's been on 100 Thieves, fucking probably since the same time Halfcock got his name.
It appeared
I'd say.
like
Oh
a wraith out of
shit.
the fog.
Damn, dude.
One moment there was nothing below them, then it was there. The bridge of the big black cock. From a distance, it looked almost as though it had been overrun by some kind of voracious black weed. The notion was absurd, of course, for no life could flourish at this depth. Such was the cold that almost seemed to radiate them from below. No, this growth was nothing as mundane as plant life. It was the very antithesis of life. Welfare. A knot of unease had settled into Sigvar's cock, and he swallowed, feeling his gorge rising. He had heard the legends and the fireside stories from lodge members who had made the descent, but even so, it was unnerving. He dropped the final 10 feet, landing in a low crouch. His muscles burned with exertion, and his hands were twisted around his cock, gripping it. Nevertheless, for all his exhaustion, he stared around him, barely daring to move his cock around. "Touch nothing," Hala warned him. "If I do touch something, that is the will of the three, is it not?" said Olar. Sigvar didn't have it in him to smile at the old warrior's jibe. Hala turned away, shaking her titties. "Catch your breath. This is the last bridge. There's no more stopping before we reach the bottom of the anal abyss. And the next stretch is the longest. May the three
The anal
go
abyss.
over us." Having dropped his excess load, Sigvar walked into the center of the bridge,
Oh,
gazing
no.
around him in horrified ecstasy. The wind was not as fierce here, hissing through the strange crevices of his ass. He found it hard to fathom what he saw,
Ew,
though
what
just
the
gazing
fuck?
upon it made him feel sick. A big black cock. Giant arcs of what looked like volcanic dick encased in the
Oh,
bridge.
unlike that one.
As if bursts of lava had leapt along around the edge of the bridge, hardening suddenly into midair. He knew the history of this bridge, of course. That which was trapped below had tried to escape the imprisonment long ago, long after the time of the three.
Jesus, Ryan, make a
Here,
book already. Fuck.
Frostcocks had found that darkness, and here they had died. And with each death, the power of what delves below grew.
Coughs in yet the hunt.
It consumed the bodies of the fallen and the raped, absorbing and repurposing them to fuel more explosive growth. Such was its nature. It might lie dormant for thousands of years, satisfied sexually, inert, and seemingly lifeless. Only for a single drop of blood to rouse it in its cock, sudden, shocking erection.
Oh no.
What Sigvar was looking
Oh
at,
my
those
goodness.
strange, nauseating, inducing, looping cocks and conglomerations of misshapen cocks, were the growth paths of what dwells below,
How long
as
is
it had
this?
leapt from the Frostguard to Frostguard, raping them. And from the matter it consumed, things had been born. There was an uncomfortable, maddening pressure on Sigvar's cock here, a pressure that seemed to be
Not his ass.
to be coming from below his ass. He pressed his cheeks into together, trying to relieve it. From nowhere, a memory long forgotten came back to him, in a rush, like a swarm of bats bursting from a cave. He remembered his childhood, before he had been taken by the Frostcocks. He remembered the ice arcs of his tribe, sleek, three-masted ships that raced across the frozen wastes upon sharpened keel blades. He remembered the night their ships had slid onto a halt on the great pinnacle. Black-helmed cocks of the Frostcock awaited them there. Sigvar and 6 other children under the age of 10 winters were chosen from among the tribe. It was a great honor in raping. And there, under the midnight sun, he watched his tribe get
Jesus.
fucked. It was the last time he saw his family.
Oh my god.
What the
He was
fuck?
taken to the Citadel, where he
Watched
underwent the trials of
They got
anal
raped.
torture, and was subject to the crueling, brutal testing. One by one, the
Through testes.
one by one, the other children of his original tribe dwindled until he was the
You like that,
only one
don't
that
you?
remained. By then, he had all but forgotten about the raping of his tribe. He had a new family, a
And his
new
testes.
cock. He was
The testy
Frostcock.
tribe.
A dick on his shoulder brought him, shuddering, back to the present.
A dick on his shoulder.
He
What the
was
fuck is
sitting
wrong
with his
you?
ass against the splintered stone statue of an
Oh my
ancient
fucking
guardian.
god.
He had no memory of getting raped,
Ancient
but
cock.
Olar was stooped over him.
Jesus.
Don't fuck, said the old warrior. Bad dreams down here. Bad memories. Sigvar climbed to his feet, naked. He hadn't thought about his whole tribe for years. The lingering fragments of his
God.
dreams slipped away, leaving Sigvar with a deep sense of horniness. It is time, said Hala. And so they began their final descent. There was nothing below them now but cock and ass and madness and dread. The what dwells below waited, just as it had for millennia. The ice darkened the further down they went. Black veins spread through it like a black cock, clawing upwards. A vague, crackling sound surrounded them, seeming to scratch at the back of Sigvar's ass. He could see no movement, but he imagined it came from those unnerving threads in the ice, seeking to escape this accursed pit and reach the
Christ.
surface. Sigvar tried to push the sound from his ass, invoking the litanies under his breath, and focusing on each kick of his cock, each strike of his balls. The ice was less even here,
Jesus.
with jutting sections of savage, undercut overhangs to traverse. At times, the three frost guards were forced to continue using only their dicks and titties, legs dangling precariously above the endless depth as they worked their way ever downward. Twice, their progress was blocked, with no conceivable way down, and they were forced to backtrack until Hala determined a new route. Icy cum closed in tightly around them, heavy and oppressive, such that Sigvar could no longer see his companions' asses below. The fog muffled all sound of raping, maddening, and scratching. At the last, a floor of solid ice emerged, surprising Sigvar with its abrupt appearance through the fog. Hala and Olar waited for him naked, having already unburdened and raped each other. The silence here was overbearing. Even the crackling in the ice seemed to have stopped. "We're at the base?" whispered Sigvar, his breath fogging the air as he shrugged off his gear. "This is as far as ye go," said Olar in a low voice. "But the delve's deeper."
Sigma.
The older Frostcock ushered him forward
Oh, no.
with his cock, pointing. They stood close to a precipice, and Sigvar saw the chasm dropped away below them, even deeper. "How far?" he whispered. "No one knows. To the center of the world and beyond. Perhaps to the realm of what dwells below." Sigvar tapped his one-spiked cock into the ice underfoot. "We could very easily have missed this.
Fucking crazy.
We come down 30 feet that way, and we would have been climbing down forever." "Ice in her pussy would not have steered us wrong," said Olar, putting a hand on Sigvar's cock, guiding him to Hala. Sigvar knelt, placing one gloved hand near the ice. The cold was intense, radiating all the way to his cock, causing him pain through thickened layers. More than just cold. Through the ice radiated power. "This is all true ice?" he whispered, his eyes alighted with reverence. "No," said Hala. "It is true cum. Only the chosen few have seen it. The eye is truly upon you, half-cock, upon us all. We be blessed."
I've got.
True cum was part of the
Yes.
Frostcock's faith, revered
True
as a
cum?
holy gift from the three, infused with ancient jizz. It was harder than iron, and would never melt, even in the hottest forge. To carry a weapon that bore even a portion of true cum, like the warhammer Cockchild, borne by Olar, and Hall's twin axes, Bloodcock and Bloodclaw, there was an honor of deeply religious significance. The skill to craft such a weapon was long lost. Those remaining were sacred relics carried by iceborne heroes of long ago. Sigvar prayed he would one day be found worthy to bear such a venerable relic, but for now, his trusty hand-and-a-half sword, forged in a land far beyond the frozen cum wastes, would do. It was a fine weapon by any measure, and had never let him down, or his cock. "We are close, the three be praised," Halla said. "We move." They looped along the ravine, running as a pack, with Halla leading the way naked. The temperature here was unlike anything Sigvar had ever experienced. Though he had lived his whole life in the barren, frozen cum wastes, despite his layers of skins and furs, it chilled him to the cock, and every breath was painful. His exposed cock was quickly encased in a thin layer of ice, which cracked every time Sigvar got an erection. Olar's beard was frozen, such that it could have snapped where it struck. Frost crackled up in their ass as the ice underfoot tried to claim them, making every step an effort.
This guy just said, "Fuck my butter."
Only an ice cock could survive this. Even so, Sigvar wasn't sure how long he would last down here. An hour? Perhaps 2? Certainly no longer than that. Alright, I'm gonna take a break for now.
What?
I need a break. Yeah, there's
Is there
I'm
more?
like halfway through. Yeah,
How
it's a
much?
long
Oh
story,
my god,
so
really?
I need
What
to
the
like get some
fuck?
water or something, cause like this is taking forever.
Holy fuck, Chris. You were going for like, that was way more than 10 minutes.
Chris, I'm in a 35-minute game, and I started 10 minutes after you started.
Jesus.
Is he done?
No, he's halfway through.
Okay.
He was talking, so
I mute myself like here and there to fucking listen to the cutscenes.
Alright, I got my
What,
water.
you don't care about fucking Jankos and the ice cocks?
I like half cock. And,
what about
I
True
like-
Cum?
Yeah, true cum.
Okay.
True Cum and half cock, I think are pretty cool characters.
Alright,
I don't know about the rest of them
So,
though.
what was that?
Oh my
Oh my.
god. Chris, judging by Hunter's mathematics, you've
I
been
can
talking
actually
for
check.
45 minutes.
I've been talking for an hour.
Oh
So,
my
let's keep going.
fucking god.
Hala kept them
Jesus
naked.
Christ.
To
dude.
stop was to die.
You're an
They
animal.
came, finally, to a section where the chasm narrowed so that they could only proceed one by one through the gap. Hala went first, and Olar indicated that Sigvar should fuck next. Do not let your gaze linger upon it, warned Olar. 'Tis not a good thing to look upon. What do you mean? Said Sigvar. Olar merely shook his cockhead and would say no more. Sigvar pushed himself into the crevice, wondering what it was the old cuck meant. The gap was narrow, and he was considerably larger than Hala. The true cum seared him as he squeezed through, pressing in on all sides. He was so cold that he was sure one hammer blow to his cock would shatter it. But he continued on, edging forward inch by inch until he was through. A large bowl-like cavern awaited them on the other side. The ice underfoot here was clearer, shifting from opaque towards transparent. In the middle of the cavern, it was perfectly smooth, like a black mirror. The floor of the center was a broad expanse surrounded by massive jutting shards
Black
of true
cock.
cum. They looked like cocks, arranged in a rough circle around the open middle, giving the cavern the feel of
God.
some sacred circle of the lost gods. There were 9 of those icy pillars, and it took Sigvar a moment to realize the significance of the number. The Hall of the 9, he said in reverence. He had learned of the 9, of course. They were akin to great shackles, holding what dwells down below, and were said to have been created by magic long lost. Some said that it was the Yetis who created the 9, but Sigvar
Ooh,
had
the
long
Yetis.
grown out of such childish
Yetis?
tales. Even so, he knew they had arrived at their destination. "Ye stay to the edges outside the circle," said Hala. once Olar had slipped through the narrow defile to join them. Go nowhere near the center of the ice and do not look down. Sigvar knew she was speaking for his benefit, and he nodded.
Who that?
Each of the 9 must
Same.
be checked. I will start here and go
Ah,
that way,
yes.
said
Story
Hala,
time.
indicating the closest pillar and motioning past it. Around to the right.
How much
Stonecock. You start there and go that
Elisha.
way. Take the
We have
boy
another
with
hour,
you.
realistically.
At any other time, Sigvar would have bristled to have been called boy.
God.
Girls,
and
he's
have
been
someone
talking for
tasked
an
to watch
hour.
over him. He'd faced charging trolls, berserk and deepest
not done.
folk winter, and felt nothing but a savage erection.
What the fuck is he reading?
But right now, he was
League
grateful
lore, but it's
to
really
remain at
long.
Olar's
Oh
side.
my god.
A palpable tension
is
hung
League
in
lore,
the
right?
air,
Yeah,
like the
this is
threat
Lissandra,
felt
Jesse.
in the moment between
This is
a
all
lightning
Lissandra?
flash and the
And
thunder
Velkoz.
crash.
Oh
They
my
walked
God.
towards the nearest
Their
pillars.
lore is linked.
Sigvar,
It's too
making a
much.
conscious effort to keep his cock high. Once, perhaps, there had been an enclosed cave, but the roof had long ago collapsed. Sigvar had the impression that the collapse had been caused by something vast, like a big giant cock hurled down from above. He dared not look down, but even so, he could see the dark shadow beneath the ice at the periphery of his vision. It tugged at his cock, as if
Whose
straining
story is he
for his
talking about?
attention.
He's talking about
Don't look.
a mixture of
Olar hissed,
Lissandra and
perhaps
Velkoz's lore with
feeling
like
that
porn.
pressure himself.
What the fuck?
Hala
Gay
reached the
porn.
first ice gulp
Gay porn,
and
yeah,
began
for
a
the-
slow circle,
For the
licking
culture, of
around
course.
it, peering intently. Olar and Sigvar approached the second one. What do we look for? Said Sigvar in a low voice, struggling to keep his gaze from wandering towards the center of the cum. Anything that has changed, replied Olar. Up close, Sigvar could see threads of frozen darkness trapped within the true cum. How do we know if anything has changed? He murmured. Olar didn't answer at first, eyes narrowing as he surveyed the shard's angled sides of the towering ice cock. Finally, he gave a grunt and pointed. Runes were carved in this ice long ago, when what dwells below was first raped here. See here? Sigvar stepped in closer and saw a small series of lines carved into the surface, forming a runic script. What does it mean? He asked. It means your ice has not melted. Come, let's check the next one. They set out, hugging the left wall of the cave and each other's ass cheeks, continuing to skirt the open expanse in the center. Sigvar would never be able to clearly articulate what happened next. Top 10 anime battles. He remembered following Olar, staying close as they moved towards the next pillar. He remembered a heavy pressure building in his cock, and then a sensation of movement in the corners of his balls. The silence weighed upon him, oppressive, heavy, and horny, and everything seemed to become unclear, as if he was surrounded by a giant fucking black cock. Then he was standing out in the center of the ice, gazing downward. An immense eye stared back at him, unblinking. Sigvar's soul and cock recoiled, screaming inwardly, yet he was unable to look away, completely in thrall to that giant, staring, lidless eye. Perhaps 20 feet of solid ice separated him from the shadowy behemoth, but it was not nearly enough. It was simply impossible to see clearly, but Sigvar was left an impression of the shadowy, coiling, tentacled limbs surrounding the great eye. It would have dwarfed even the largest of titanic black cocks in the depths beneath the ice floes. A creature of such size should not be. And it was not dead. There was life and a vast unknowable intelligence in that stare.
Oh,
It saw
God.
him. It's
I'm kind of
well,
like
move. Go
tired of
somewhere
this.
Oh, damn. Dude, that just
Its
reinvigorated me. Yo,
gaze bored
continue.
into him, through him,
That was
and he
great.
felt his sanity
Damn.
and erection begin to unravel, like a spool of yarn hurled into the night. Sigvar's cock was an ever-tightening knot, dark shadows coiling at the edge of his vision, squirming and serpentine, threatening to... A hand grabbed him by the scruff of his cock, hauling him backwards. He stumbled, cock flailing and slipping as he was dragged out of the circle. and dumped unceremoniously on the ice beyond. He scrambled to his feet, shadows and coiling shapes still swimming in his mind. Dimly, Sigvar registered Olar standing before him, gripping his cock in one tight fist. Hala on her knees, fingering herself frantically. The writhing shadows still moved at the corners
Jesus.
of his eyes, and his head felt heavy.
No, you're gonna go horny.
Filled with
you.
a stifling
Like, I don't know.
fog, unwittingly his gaze started to turn back towards the center of the ice. Back towards. Olar's heavy cock struck him across the jaw, snapping his head back sharply. Don't look at it! Sigvar blinked his head a little clearer and he nodded. Hella, he's not strong enough, said Olar. Cock poised. All the humor in his eyes was gone now, replaced with an intense, ruthless horniness. He should go back. No, said Sigvar. I'm fine. He should go back, Olar repeated, looking at Hala. She finished her hurried fingering and pushed herself to her feet, studying Sigvar with narrowed eyes. I'm fine. I can do this, he assured both. If he falters again, rape him, said Hala. Go. Check the corpse. She made her way to the next one, crunching over the ice naked. Don't make me do it, Olar growled at Sigvar. I don't want to have to haul ye body back out. No corpse could be left down here, for fear that it could be used to spark the growth of what dwelled below. It would be an incredibly difficult climb back out anyway. Sigvar couldn't imagine how hard it would have to be to haul a body with a cock as big as his. And Olar had to bear out two bodies on his last couple of climbs. He reminded himself his reverence for the old warrior was redoubled. I will not look, vowed Sigvar, keeping his cock locked to his leg. Let's go. Olar grunted and gestured for Sigvar to take the lead. They located the rune at the next pillar almost instantly. Here, said Olar, pointing it out. The edges of that marking were so sharp it could have been carved only an hour earlier, not thousands of years ago. That was good. It meant the ice had not melted in all that time. This one's years, laddie, said Olar as they approached the next mighty cock, jutting up at an acute angle from the floor. I'll check the next. Don't let me down, boy. Sigvar nodded as the warrior left him to survey the shard alone. It was almost completely black as he looked upon it. The shadows at the edge of his vision seemed to return, oh no, making it seem as though things were moving within the ice. He shook his head and cock, walking around the pillar, eyes tracking up and down, penis shaking, searching for a rune, but finding none. Every angled surface of the penis was completely smooth. Frowning, he made a second pass, moving even more slowly. Still, he found nothing. Glancing towards the others, he saw Hala and Olar had almost linked up, having checked all but the last two. Come on, then, he said to himself, blinking hard. Focus!
Come
He then
on,
made a
man.
third turn around the circumcised penis. Still nothing. Hala and Olar were making their way towards him now, their expressions grim. When he looked at the pillar again, he would have sworn he saw a bead of water sliding down its side. But that was surely impossible. Narrowing his eyes, he leaned in. Up close, he could see the cum was slick with moisture. The edges of the shard were less defined than they were on the other pillars, blunted and rounded smooth. He was surprised he hadn't noticed that sooner. Still, he felt no sense of alarm, even when he saw the flicker of movement within the dark ice. And a natural sense of calm infused his being. Dimly, he heard a shout from behind him, but it barely registered. The sound was muffled, as if it was coming from a long way away. He gave it no mind. All that mattered was the blackness in the ice before him. It was calling to him, whispering to him, urging him to touch it. The shadows were no longer just the periphery of his vision. Now it was all he saw. He reached out towards the big black cock. A hand grabbed his own, Hala's hand, his hole. He was hurled backwards, hitting the ice almost 10 feet away. In horror, he recognized the darkness thrashing within the ice pillar, struggling to be free. It stabbed from within, straining to breach its prison. He had realized it had been reaching for his cock. Hala's eyes were closed. One hand outstretched over the weak point in the ice where the darkness attacked. In her other hand, she clutched her talisman that she fingered herself with. She barked a catechism of her faith, and her outstretched hand began to glow with cold cum. New ice crystals began to form upon the pillar's face. It was not going to be enough. What Hala was praying into existence was not true ice. No one had the ability to create that anymore. A spiderweb of cracks appeared on the surface as the darkness within redoubled its attack. With her eyes closed, Hala didn't see it, and Sigvar was too far away. Even as he lurched to his feet and drew his cock, Olar was suddenly at Hala's shoulder, Thundercock clasped in both hands. Just as the darkness breached the pillar's surface, spearing towards Hala's titties with the speed of a lightning strike, Olar shouldered her aside. His warcock smashed the tendrils of darkness asunder with a deafening crack. It was not the only one, however. 3 more spat from the rupture. "Stonecock!" bellowed Sigvar. He leapt forward, but was too slow. They all were. Olar staggered back, swatting one of the tendrils aside with a sweep of his thundercock, but was unable to stop the other 2. They thrust into his flesh with relish, one piercing the meat of his left shoulder and the other the side of his ass, biting deep. Olar Stonecock's muscles ripped as the unearthly tentacles raped into him. His veins turned black, starkly visible through his pale skin, and he dropped to his knees. Sigvar made to grab him, but Hala pulled him back. "No!" she shouted. "It'll claim ye too!"
No.
With his last strength, Olar tossed Thundercock towards them, spinning it across the ice. "Go!" he whispered. "Get word to the citadel!" "Take your hammer!" Hala yelled at Sigvar. "We can't leave him be. 'Tis too late, laddie. He's already gone." Sigvar watched in impotent horror as Olar was savagely raped. The Frostcock warrior was shuddering as most of his skin was now horrible shades of black and purple like a bruise. More than a dozen
raped?
penises
Fuck.
pierced him,
Jesus Christ, dude.
connecting him to the
Oh my
darkness within the
God.
ice. "Take the hammer, half-cock," repeated Hala. Sigvar
Take it, have cook.
sheathed his blade and picked up
Does he take it?
Thundercock, bracing for the pain. It made him grasp.
Oh,
The
Thundercock.
intensity of its cold flowing swiftly up his arms, down to his cock, almost making it stop.
His cock.
But he did not fight it. He embraced it, becoming
Ooh,
one
he
with it.
didn't fight it.
A creeping shape, ridged and
the
segmented
cold.
like an insect, began to spread across Olar's flesh.
Smegma.
Oh my god. It hardened like a cooling
His
volcanic
testes.
rock. A sickening purple light began to
On his
pulse within
testes.
him, like a second heartbeat, radiating throughout his flesh. In horrified
Oh my
disgust,
god.
Is he open the next guy?
in horrified
Oh, they finished his
disgust,
dungeon. Sure.
Sigvar realized something was growing within Olar. What?
Chris, can I stop you for a second?
Huh.
When you go to the park, is it usually like
Depends on the
populated?
time.
Like, is there a lot of people there?
And it depends on the day too. I don't know.
Yeah.
I know, but when
Again,
you
I don't
usually
have
go?
the time. Like,
He goes when
You
he
usually
he
go at
literally-
night, so therefore at
Like I
night
said,
is there
it depends
usually a
on
good
the
amount of people there?
I don't know.
So let's say
I
today.
don't know.
on a
Every day
Monday.
is different. It's honestly like a coin flip. Why?
I just wondering, because I don't know.
He's trying to pull up.
And Chris, can you let me know like at least 30 minutes, like eyeballing it, like okay,
No,
Elijah, maybe we
fucking
should
no.
head out now.
When does the sun set?
Are
Like,
you
when
gonna,
does
you
it
gonna run with him
become dark?
now, like consistently?
I'm attempting to. I don't know. It's looking kind of dark now,
Oh,
but
no,
like
I
there's like
still see
rain
light
clouds
being
overhead.
on.
So I mean, I don't know
It's-
if it's like it's like,
Yeah. All right. So anyway,
I still see legs,
back
bro.
to the story. We're like, how
fucking
much
Chris,
more do we
man.
have? Let me actually check.
Are you gonna run
Here
with
we
him
go.
today?
I was going to, but I mean, I don't know if I like. I'm trying to line up the times, but fucking, I guess I
Sigvar
leave whenever the
sheathed
fuck.
his blade. Oh no, I already read that.
Like, okay.
How am I so extra?
So
You're
extra,
asking
this
me
guy.
something I don't know.
You can look outside. Okay,
Well,
looks
it's
like it's
not
turning
dark
dark. Unless
yet.
you
What
want
do
to
you
start
want me
heading
to
out now.
say?
I'm just. Are you going to
I
though?
guess I don't know. How long does it take you to get to me?
Well, I have to take the train.
Hmm.
Train all the way over to Pelham, and then I go past Middletown
The
Bureau.
train side, the
like
train
all
ride
the other
itself
shit
should take
in
like
between.
5 minutes. Where are you going from? I guess.
Yeah, I know. Then I have to
I don't
walk
know. We'll
down there
see. I just want to finish the story right
from
now.
my
It's
house.
just fucking
Yeah.
annoying me. Okay.
Yeah,
so,
I want you to finish it too. To be
Sigvar
honest. Like,
sheathed his blade and picked up Thundercloak, bracing for. Oh no, I already read that. A creeping shape. Wait, let me see. Yeah, a creeping shape, ridged and segmented like an insect, began to spread across Olar's flesh. It hardened like a cooling volcanic rock. No, I read that too. With an anguished cry, Hala hurled Bloodcock, sending the axe spinning. What?
oh, should I?
If you want to,
I
it's gonna
shouldn't
be
eat
harder,
before,
though.
right?
Sending the axe spinning
Okay.
end over end through the air. It struck Olar between the gawk, killing him instantly. It was a merciful act. Yet it saddened Sigvar to see a legend of the Frostgawks meet such an ignoble end. Cum instantly formed upon Olar's corpse, extending down from where Bloodgawk was embedded. Crackling hoarfrost soon encased his head, chest, and arms. The power of the true ice seemed to stall the consumption, the tendrils becoming slow and sluggish, the purple light within him dying. Has it stopped? Hissed Sigvar. For now, perhaps. Ye axe? We leave it, said Hala, speaking swiftly. With the blessing of the three,
We could
it
also
will
play
hold
Dead by
what
Daylight,
dwells
Jesse,
below
or whatever it's
in
called.
check.
Dying
But there
Light?
is no knowing
Dying
how
Light, whatever it's
long.
called.
We have to go. Now.
Are you sure it's gonna be dark
Sigvar
out?
didn't argue. He began to pick his way around the edge of the circle,
Oh yeah, I have to
but
look
Hala
outside.
stopped him. Too slow, she barked. Across the middle.
Oh, I was being serious.
Go. Sigvar froze, unwilling to step onto the open ice.
I don't know if it's the rain clouds or I mean, like I said,
But as Hala
he
sprinted
dictates
out
that, not
before
me.
him, he took a reluctant first step, forcing his gaze to remain raised as he followed her. Gingerly at first, then moving faster. At any moment he expected to feel movement below him as the immense, horrific, one-eyed purple creature trapped in the ice awoke from its endless slumber. He could feel its malign force working on him, straining at his consciousness, like clutching tendrils. It was watching him, that giant, lidless, unblinking cock boring into him from below.
Cock.
The urge to look down was overpowering. Sigvar tightened his grip on Thundercock, gritting his teeth against the pain of its cold. He kept his gaze locked onto Hala as he breathed the litanies. Turn not from pain, for pain is life, and its absence means death. Yeah, it's the litany.
Hey, is he singing?
Even when he
Hey, okay.
resisted looking down, every step was an effort, like he was running through a snowdrift. He could feel the
cock.
eye boring into him, whispering to him, calling to him, sucking him. He croaked, the blessing
calls to
louder
me.
to drown it out.
Sucking him.
Then he was across and grasped for air as the pressure upon him lessened. Hala was there, urging him on. She shoved him ahead, towards the narrow defile marking their exit. Just before he slipped through, Sigvar glanced back. Did he see that purple light within the frozen corpse of Olar? He had no time to check as Hala pushed him urgently through. Guh! Guh! She said. There was no time for a careful, steady passage. Sigvar pressed forward, grinding against the ice, uncaring for the pain of his cock. On the other side, the two of them sprinted through the ravine, racing back to where they had descended the ice wall. We have to alert the citadel, Hala huffed as she ran. The 9 has been breached. The chains that hold back what dwells below have been weakened.
Oh, man,
All the
9.
other sites must be checked. The ice must be reformed. They reached their discarded climbing gear, breathing heavily. Shouldn't we stay to fight it? Sigvar gasped. The Watcher will only awaken Once all of the pillars are breached, said Hala, Bloodcock should now hold back any lesser creature, and if it doesn't, then we kill it, said Hala. But word must reach the Citadel. At least one of us has to make it back. Leave anything you don't need. With some reluctance, Sigvar swung his shield off his shoulder and propped it against the ice wall, his scabbard sword joining it, and Hala helped him strap Thundercock across his back. They roped themselves together, secured their cocks, and began the long climb back to the top. And all the while he felt the great eye in the ice below, staring upward. The shell that had been Olar Stonefist cracked open with a wet tear, and a pale thing spilled forth in a tumble of hissing ichor and segmented limbs. It righted itself unsteadily, clawing at the ice with talons the length of daggers. A slashing tail unfurled behind it, and it lifted its head. All bony tusks and jutting spines revealed a burning purple-tinged light at its heart. Sections of its spongy, flexible exoskeleton closed protectively around the heart and began to harden. It was a sickly white color devoid of hue, but its hide quickly darkened as if in reaction in the air. The creature's eyes tore open to look upon the icy world in which it had been born. 12 pinpricks of hot purple light gathered in 3 clusters. It lifted its head high, and a keening birth scream ripped from its throat. Wait, what? Hala and Sigvar were halfway to the Bridge of the Lost when the inhuman cry reached them. It echoed through the fog all around them. It was impossible to tell the direction it came from or how close it was. "Climb faster," was all Hala said, and the pair increased their pace, eschewing safety for speed. Their picks hacked into the cum in the wild fury. As they drove themselves upward with powerful kicks, toe spikes biting deep, Sigvar kept glancing down, expecting some nameless horror to emerge from the depth at any moment. And then, just as the ghost of the Bridge of the Lost appeared through the fog above, it did. "Ice in her pussy," he hissed, and Hala looked down past him. "Move!" she shouted, eyes narrowing. They climbed frantically. If that thing made it to them before they reached the bridge, they'd be helpless. Sigvar glanced back once more to see the creature racing up on them. It ascended with vile, sinuous movement, multiple bladed limbs stabbing into the ice with frenzied speed. Glowing eye clusters blazed, and it screeched, the sound like steel grinding on cock, mandibles clacking. Hala made it to the bridge first. Turning, she reached down to Sigvar with her iron grip and hauled him over the edge. By the time he regained his feet, she had untied her ropes and had let Bloodfang at the ready. In her other hand, Hala held one of her ice picks. It was a poor substitute for Bloodcock, but it would have to suffice. Sigvar also dropped his picks and made to unsling Thundercock from his back, but Hala stopped him and said no. "Keep climbing." "I will stand with," he began, but she cut him off, showing him her titty. "You will climb, half-gawk," she said, pointing at him with Bloodfang. No discussion. "But—" "No discussion," her titty snapped. "Climb. Get word to the Citadel." "But I should be the one who—" "Go," she roared, with such fury that Sigvar's cock went completely limp. "Go, half-gawk," she said quieter.
Oh my.
"If the 3 will it, I will join you shortly." With great reluctance, he scooped his pick and cock and began climbing. Hala dropped to her knees, fingering herself, eyes closed. He was some 30 feet up from the wall when the creature scuttled over the edge of the bridge. It looked up, its eyes locking onto Sigvar, and started to move in pursuit. "Here, ye ugly beast!" Hala called out, rising to face it. "Come at me, and let me smite ye by the will of the 3. Sigvar looked on, powerless. The creature below swung its attention from him to Hala, and leapt towards her with seemingly impossible speed. She rolled under its scything cock, sweeping through the air just inches above her. She hacked Bloodcock deep into the side as she could, sending forth a burst of streaming entrails and eliciting a horrible screech. Then she followed up with a strike from her ice pick, but it bounced harmlessly off the beast's tough exterior. She danced away, spinning out of range as the monster lashed out at her again. Hala struck twice more, hacking off the vile creature's limbs and scoring a deep wound across the side of its head. But it was unnaturally fast and horny. As Hala's axe came back for another blow, it darted forward and stabbed one bladed limb through her titty, making her drop Bloodfang with a hiss of
Oh,
pain.
not the city.
She hacked desperately at the creature's face with her ice pick, but managed little other than putting out a few of its eyes. Her arm was still impaled, and she couldn't get away. With a roar, Sigvar ripped his picks from the ice and pushed himself off. 30 feet he fell before landing, knees bent, caulk hurt, and hands outspread for balance right beside Hala. The frozen flagstones cracked under the impact, and he rolled hard, the wind driven from his lungs. He already had Thundercock in his hands as the creature turned its attention and erection towards him. It tried to tug its clawed limbs from Hala, but she clutched onto it, keeping it in her titty, keeping it trapped even as it struggled. "Strike, half-cock!" Its maw opened impossibly wide, exposing rows of serrated fangs and tusks, and screaming in defiance as Sigvar brought Thundercock around in a lethal blow. The immense hammer took the creature squarely in its cock, half pulping it and sending the cock flying, with a burst of cold and crack like thunder. The hateful beast struck the balustrade of the bridge and tried to scramble to its feet, but staggered drunkenly, the purple light at its heart faltering. Bellowing, Sigvar charged the monster as it tried to recover. It hissed but could do nothing to avoid the next cock attack. This time, Thundercock smashed it square in the balls, crushing its balls and sundering the protective cage around its glowing cock. As the beast sailed over the edge of the bridge, flailing wildly, the heart darkened and died. Then it was swallowed by the fog and was gone. "That was rash ye be with Kont," said Hala. She was slumped on the ground, her wounded arm hanging loose at her sides. Her skin was pale, paler than usual, and her eyes were sunken and dark. "Or perhaps it was the will of the three," Sigvar replied. What a fucking asshole. Sigvar replied, moving to her side and dropping to his cock. "Perhaps," she conceded, smiling weakly. Using a knife, Sigvar cut away the bloodied sleeve over Hala's injured titty. The flesh around the wound was dark and streaming. Blackness was already spreading into her veins. Both of them knew what would happen. If that darkness were to spread any further... "Use blood cock," said Hala. There was no hint of fear in her voice. "Aim true, laddie," she added, tapping the center of her chest. Sigvar took up Bloodcock, gauging its weight. Cum radiated from its haft over his hands, but he barely registered. "It has not yet spread beyond your arm," he said. "It may not." Hala stared up at him, eyes clear and devoid of fear. "Do it. Do it." For 3 days, Sigvar climbed.
Do it.
And for 3 days, he felt the malignant eye in the deep watching him. He felt ravenous hunger in that gaze, gnawing at him, eating away at his cock, but he continued. "Endure without complaint. The ice begs not for mercy nor offers it. Neither shall we." While the hunger of that ancient being was palpable, Sigvar realized there was no real emotion in it. It did not feel anger or hatred or resentment at its fate. It was dispassionate, uncaring, unknowable, and patient. In a sense that made it even more horrific. Nor was it alone. Sigvar had no idea how many other watchers were trapped down at the bottom of the howling abyss. But as he climbed, he felt other gazes turning towards him, following his progress. Finally, he pulled himself onto the Bridge of Sorrows. Only now, as he climbed from the great chasm, did he finally move beyond their gaze. Hala, ice in her pussy, was roped to his back. Her eyes were closed, and her breathing shallow. But she lived. Her left arm was gone below the shoulder, but there was no blood on her sleeve. The true ice core of Bloodcock had effectively sealed the wound. Bearing her had been exhausting, making the difficult climb that much harder, but such was his duty, and he had done it without complaint. Pausing only a few seconds to catch his breath, Sigvar stomped heavily across the bridge towards the citadel. It felt like he had been gone for years. The way was obscured with a billowing ice storm, so that he couldn't even see more than a dozen yards in front of him. As the walls loomed out of the storm before him, he saw a shadowy figure awaiting him. Ralalakakaka, split-tongue, Frostfather of the Keepers,
What the fuck?
leaned heavily upon his staff of
Split-cock.
office. Sigvar eyed the black tip of the staff as he
Cock.
stomped to a halt before the gate, and took in the shard of ice hanging around the priest's neck. He looked upon the two of them with unease. He knew where they came from now. Few among your brethren have glimpsed the darkness below as we have, said the old cock. Your understanding of the faith has deepened, but there is still much to learn, as he unzipped his pants. Sigvar nodded, accepting this. Splitcock's gaze then settled on Hala, strapped unconscious upon Sigvar's back before shifting behind him, searching. Stonecock? He asked, to which Sigvar simply shook his head. He was too exhausted to say more. From ice we are born, and to ice we return, said the Frostcock, touching the center of his forehead in reverence. It's melting, Sigvar managed. One of the 9, something emerged. The watchers stir, breathed the priest, eyes widening, perhaps in awe, perhaps in fear, perhaps in ecstasy. Sigvar merely nodded, his breath ragged. His prodigious strength was close to failing him. Our revered mistresses, the Lady of Ice and Darkness, must be informed, said the priest. The immense gates of the citadel ground open, the shadows within beckoning. Come, Iceborn. We must prepare for what is to come. And that's the end of the story. That big ass fucking read.
Nice.
Yes.
Were you streaming? Nice, man. I gotta be a video.
So
Alright,
now
I'm
the
back.
last thing we have is Lissandra's bio. Do you want me to read Lissandra's bio? Well, I'm reading it anyway. So
No.
In a time long
Okay.
forgotten,
Ooh, yeah.
I knew you
Wait,
were-
what are you? Wait,
I
wait,
was-
wait, 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 Chris,
Lissandra's
wait, wait.
bio.
What are you reading? Because I didn't hear that.
Okay.
Okay.
So, in a
alright,
time
you
long
continue.
forgotten, before the sands birthed and then swallowed Shurima, beings of old magic freely walked Runeterra.
Yeah.
The borders between the mortal realm and what lay beyond, that was all Velkoz.
Wait, that was all Velkoz? Oh my
Jesus
fucking
Christ.
god,
Yes.
that was 2 hours
It
of
wasn't
a
just
read.
one story, by the way.
It was multiple. Chris banged out a couple of them.
Alright, so the borders between the
Yeah.
mortal realm and what lay beyond it were hotly contested. Into this dangerous and volatile age, Lysandra and her
Hotly.
sisters, Cerilda and Avarosa, were born. Each sought to harness the
Hey,
powers
Yeti.
at war, and each paid a terrible price.
Wait. Can I stop you for 1 second, Chris? Jesse, why does Adrian and Hunt get to rock the picture, but with me,
I
I'm put
berated
into a
both of them.
corner?
I want you. I berated both of them.
I said the same thing.
I did.
I
I mean, they did-
don't
I
understand.
berated both of them. They didn't listen.
I don't
to
know
me.
why you get your cock immediately swallowed.
So should
I
I,
s-
right?
swallowed
Like,
Can
it.
I
can
just,
I put it
can I
back?
just finish the Lysandra story? It's
No, you
like
didn't.
fucking
Yeah, I
almost done.
did.
It's her bio. It's short.
Alright.
Yeah. So
Okay,
into
it's
this-
very short. Okay, continue.
Okay. So each sister paid a terrible price, attempting to command the heavens above them. Cerilda lost her voice to the first twilight. Avarosa faced the twisting dark beneath the world and was deafened by its emptiness, waiting to consume all creation. It was Lysandra who stood against the wild magic of the mortal world itself. For this defiance, the savage claws of a primal god, basically, fucking Volibear, raked across her eyes, blinding
I'm gonna go get my shoes.
Though each sister had lost a part of themselves, it was on the frozen fields of Lysandra's many battles that they were able to unite and prevail. Together, they were unstoppable, but even a bond of blood could only weather so much. With her sight taken, Lysandra chose instead to walk in dreams. As she navigated the fitful visions of those around her, she realized only she could see the darkness below for what it was. The lingering abyss promised not only an ending, but infinity. What?
Wait, why are you reading?
What?
No, never mind. Penis.
He's still
It was
still
death,
going at it.
both dangerous and full of
The new one.
potential. Unknown to her sisters, Lysandra struck a deal on their behalf with the godlike entities she had communed with. The Watchers would grant them near immortality in exchange for preparing Runeterra for the coming of the Void. The three sisters and their most powerful followers were named Iceborn. Those with this ability to withstand the worst of the numbing frost would be spared until the very end. However, Lyssandra's sisters grew displeased. Avarosa argued that the only thing worse than death was servitude. Even Cyrilda bristled against what would become of the world they had fought so hard for. Caught in the middle, Lysandra tried to soothe her sister's concerns while appealing to the Watchers for more time, but the unknowable nothingness cared not for such platitudes. The void erupted into the mortal world in the far north, and with it, Lysandra's hidden allegiances to the Watchers became undeniable. In that moment, her only choices were to let all the world be consumed, or to give up what she cared for the most. Lysandra sacrificed her sisters and the allies they had gathered, entombing the Watchers beneath a glacial barrier of magical ice that could never be melted. Lysandra soon discovered that even this elemental power was not enough. The monstrous beings she had frozen were merely slumbering, slowly tainting the true ice around them into something darker. Now they wandered through Lysandra's dreams as easily as she had theirs, and always she would awake, terrified, professing her loyalty to the chilling eternity they promised. Ever the survivor, she gathered her remaining followers to venerate her and her departed sisters. If true ice would delay the inevitable end of all things, then they had to gather as much of it as they could find and scour the frozen lands for any of the Iceborn descent to join their cause. Lysandra and the first among her Frostguard did everything in their power to rewrite history, seizing all records of what had truly happened. And yet, rumors and prophecies persisted in myth and song. It was whispered.
Well, it's up to you if you want to play either or. I just suggested the other one.
I mean, if you want to play Dying Light instead of No Man's, we can.
No Man's Sky.
Up to you as well.
It was whispered that Avarosa and
Alright.
Cyrilda would one day return to unite.
Alright, fuck it, let's
the
do Dying Light. We need to
tribes.
finish that.
And so Lysandra had any who were hailed as their reincarnations quietly killed. Even so, she retreated into the shadows, periodically renewing herself with the power she had been gifted. Like the threat that lies trapped beneath the ice, Lysandra has never been able to completely control her sister's legends, whether from guilt or from arrogance. Her failure to eradicate their legacy had manifested once more into two powerful Iceborn leaders, one an idealist and the other a conqueror. And now between them, they lead many tribes on Freljord. Lysandra watches them carefully, seeking any opportunity to pit them against one another, all the while redoubling her own efforts to lock away the terrible secrets buried under the citadel. And so she must hope, for the ice is beginning to melt. So basically, Lysandra made a deal with the Void.
Damn, I was.
Oh
That's
shit.
that's basically like the equivalent of making like a deal with
like,
Satan.
wait, oh shit, this is not
Yeah.
good.
Yikes.
Wait, oh
Wait, so
shit.
she has.
Well, her
does she have good
intent was
intent
to
though?
make her and her sisters live forever.
Oh, that's not good intent.
But
Not for everybody else,
yeah,
but I guess
so
for the sisters
she-
and her.
basically, I don't even get what she wants anymore. She wants to like fuck over the Watchers, but she wants their help because she wants to be immortal.
I had a
And her,
question.
She
her
wants to
fucking
betray
sisters
them.
are still alive too, so we could see them as champions because the ice is starting to melt. Avarosa and fucking Cyrilda.
Uh-oh.
Oh shit.
No,
Would they just
they
play the
didn't.
same though?
No, they just have the same
Lysandra
theme,
was
like ice,
blinded,
but like different
Cyrilda
kids.
was deafened,
I guess.
and Avarosa was
Oh
like,
my god.
I think her
Yikes.
muted. Yeah, she was muted.
Muted. Wait, was it? Isn't there a
Invite me in.
story about the three witches? Fate and all that?
Yeah, the Three Sisters of Fate.
Yeah.
I think this is it. And Velkoz is just trapped in the ice
Have you?
right now. Like, he's waiting. I think.
The
Wow,
fuck?
wait,
Velkoz
you trying to
that
ask
trapped
for
in
more
the
play?
ice.
second Velkoz.
Like Jesse
I
can
think.
play as him.
Yeah, you weren't here.
What?
for the
They
first
made a
story. The
second
first story,
Velkoz?
has been around forever. He was like the first Void almost. The first Voidborn.
Okay. That's
Oh,
dope.
so he didn't.
Yeah, no,
they threw out the
that's
story
not
that he
fair.
killed all of his race.
What?
No.
I thought he was the leader.
But yeah,
Seeking
apparently the
knowledge.
Watchers are in
Yeah.
the Void. Like the Watchers are Void. And they made the Voidborn.
Okay, what was that entire story you were talking about? Like, can you dumb it down like really
Okay, so
simple? 'Cause I
basically
wasn't
there are
following.
three
It was like
fucking
a lot of like
penises,
nonsense.
and no, 2 penises, 1 titty, and
Crazy, crazy.
penis.
Just. Okay,
there's
okay.
2
I think I.
penises and 1
Okay.
titty,
Continue.
and they have to go down to the
Alright,
big
Alex, let's
pit
go.
where the void
One
is,
titty.
where the void's breaking in,
Okay.
and they have to
a
check
minute, it's
that
night.
the shit
Wait a minute.
Lysandra
Let's
put
go
there
to
is
sleep.
so good, and it wasn't. Yes, they work for Lysandra.
They work for Lysandra. So
The
are all the
Iceborn
people who work for Lysandra, they're not
but
bad.
they don't know her past. She's
Not
like,
all of them are bad?
She's hidden
Okay.
her past. Because what I just read was her past. She basically caused this.
All right. So what she's
Well,
doing
she's
now?
trying
Is she
to
like a nice
do both
benevolent
sides.
leader?
She loves her sisters, and she wants her sisters to, like, you know, rock with her. But they don't want to, and she wants to rock with the Watchers,
Okay.
but, like, she also doesn't want to. Yeah, so
So
basically
damned if
she's
she
trying
does,
to, like,
damned if she
just
doesn't,
hold
just do
everybody
whatever.
back.
Okay. All right. So I guess that's.
Yes.
So what is she? What is she now? Would you say she's still a
I
villain?
would say she is. But she's sensible, like, she's
Okay.
not,
All right. She's still a villain.
she's not, like, Gulk. Well, she
Yeah,
kind of is. But
Okay.
her intentions were good, I guess.
Okay, there's one
Her
over.
intentions weren't that bad. Yeah, and now
Okay, yeah,
fucking
we can sleep right here, young man.
Ash and Sejuani are like problems
Very
for
good.
her. No one cares about him.
Okay, what about
Aatrox
Tryndamere?
cares about him. He's Aatrox's next
Come on.
vessel.
Oh my.
Aatrox is
He's Aatrox's
Yeah,
next
Aatrox
fucking
cares
like
about
body.
He really
He's a
cares
vessel.
about him.
They gotta make a fucking movie.
Aatrox
Yeah.
wants him. He wants his body.
Isn't he like, I don't know, possession?
They
Possession.
should make like a legendary skin for Tryndamere, like Void,
Consumed
or not Void,
Tryndamere.
Darkened Tryndamere. It's like
Yeah.
Because apparently the
Or
stronger the
consumed, yeah.
body is, the stronger Aatrox can
That'd be
become
dope
to
as
his
hell.
normal form. Because right now,
And remember,
no, he's not
Tryndamere is immortal, which
To
makes
the-
it
according
worse.
to the lore. He's not.
I forgot how to play this game just now. I'm gonna be real with you.
I also
I'm gonna go to
forgot.
my
I'm just
kitchen
gonna
real
jump
quick
down here and
see what
fuck
I
it.
have to eat for dinner.
I'm at 25 health.